You'd like to have a midwife as part of your overall birth plan, but how feasible is that, especially from a monetary perspective? And if you're counting on insurance to cover some of that cost, well, will they actually do that? I'm Sunny with New Mommy Media, and today I am joined by Cheryl Furer. She is a midwife educator, and she's also the founder of Your Thriving Pregnancy. Hi, Cheryl. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Sunny. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about the general cost for giving birth. And I know this is going to vary. There's some factors in here, like where you give birth and things like that. But can you break down for hospital births, if you have a vaginal birth, if you have a C-section, and then perhaps a home birth. So moms have a general idea of how much money they might be spending based on what type of birth they have.
Sure. So like you said, this is going to be ballpark figures, and it really also depends on where you live. Like if you're giving birth in New York City compared to Ogden, Utah, they're going to be quite different numbers.
Right.
But, in general, insurance and hospital-based practices are pretty intricately combined. And so depending on the type of insurance you have and where you give birth, you may not even find out the final number of what it costs. So for example, a cesarean section, which is the costliest of all the birthing options, that can range between $35,000 to $45,000, again, just depending on where in the United States you're giving birth and what that might look like. And if that is part of your birth plan or winds up being part of your birth plan, then it's better, obviously, to have really good insurance that's going to take care of most of that and have a smaller deductible fee that, you won't be paying out of pocket for years and years and years to come. So thinking about that, and then if you're going to plan a hospital vaginal birth, those can range anywhere from $15,000. I've seen them as high as $30,000, again, depending on where in the U.S. you're birthing at, and depending on when you're watching this video.
Right.
That can change. But even to get these numbers can be really difficult. And so if a mom really wants to know, I want to compare the different hospitals in my region, I would suggest calling the hospital and asking their billing department, if you were to pay cash for one of these services, what would the ballpark be for a cash service? That's how I found out what some of the pricing was in my area. I just called and kind of, sort of had to ask around then. So birth center, which you didn't quite ask about, but I'll transition to there. So hospital is usually covered by insurance. It's pretty standard. You may go to you may have a PPO insurance where you have to go to a particular type of hospital or a particular ran hospital, but essentially they're all pretty well integrated. A lot of birth centers are also integrated into insurance. And so the average birth center costs between $6,000 and maybe up to $15,000.
Okay.
And so already we're coming down in cost quite a bit. And the birth centers that are integrated, again, what you would see is your deductible. So that would be billed through your insurance, and then you'd get your deductible at the end after you have your baby. And then the last pricing is home birth midwifery. And again, this varies by state, but some home birth midwives can take insurance. Some of us are covered by Medicaid, and some of us are cash pay only because of the restrictions of our state. So our ranges are usually between, again, all over the country, different pricing, but between $2,500 and $6,000.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm kind of surprised why insurance companies don't see that savings and be like, oh, obviously we should be covering these home birth midwives.
Right?
Because they charge a tiny percentage, 1% or 10% of what, a hospital is covering.
Right.
But, logic escapes companies sometimes. And so we just
I totally feel you. I remember getting the bill. I had a cesarean, I believe it was with my second child. And I remember getting, it wasn't actually a bill, but it was a breakdown of everything because insurance did cover a bunch of it. And I could not believe the numbers. I mean, it was what you were talking about. It was over 35,000. I can't remember the exact number. And it's just, when you're getting ready to have a baby, I don't know, for me that I didn't think about how much it was going to cost. There was a lot of stuff going on in my head, and that was not one of them. But I was shocked afterwards. And you're right, when you compare it to a home birth and midwifery and things like that. I mean, they would be saving a lot of money if they encouraged more of that. How much money does it typically cost? Again, everybody's a little bit different, and every location's a little bit different. But specifically to bring on a midwife, what's the ballpark there?
So, I know this is a huge range, but between $2,500 and $6,000.
Okay.
And sometimes, like if I'm going to bill insurance, I might bill that higher amount and then ask for a retainer fee at the beginning of the care, so that my client's bill is covered with my care completely before the baby's here. And that works really well for my practice and for clients that hire me. I totally understand that doesn't work for everyone, because the way maternity care is set up is that if you're going to see an OB practice, let's say, and maybe they have 15 different doctors in that practice, they actually don't bill for your insurance until after you give birth. So they bill all your prenatal care, your birth, and the piddly postpartum care that you get. I guess it's something, but they charge for all of that after you give birth. And that's the way our insurance is set up.
Okay.
Which, as a home birth midwife, that doesn't necessarily work for my practice, because my in-person practice, because, we do everything we can to support a home birth, but there will be transfers and we may need to go to the hospital, and nobody wants a bill when they're holding their new babies in their arms.
Of course. Yeah, that's just,
and so when we can have all that taken care of beforehand, it just completes that package of care. And then we get into the postpartum, and they never owe me another, penny. And we just, it's really lovely, actually.
What would your recommendation be for moms out there that are trying to determine what their insurance will and won't cover? I mean, is it as simple as just reaching out to your insurance and saying, hey, I'm looking at these different options for giving birth. Can you give me an idea of what might be covered? And then they can kind of break it down for them?
Maybe. It depends on your insurance company. And what I would say is I would actually suggest hiring an insurance company that bills out of hospital practices to do a verification of benefits for you. Because what I found is that learning the language of insurance is like learning a foreign language. Some people are great at learning it. I can definitely tell you I am not one of those people. And so I have an outside billing company that will call the insurance, and they know the exact right questions to ask to see what your insurance will cover. Because it's almost like you don't want to give too much away to your insurance company, but you also need to know which questions and how to ask them in order to get the correct information back. Yeah. And so I have an outside billing company that does that for my clients, and that's what I would actually suggest to everyone. The company I use is $25, and they don't have to be contracted with me or anything. So it's a great source.
Is that company based on, do you have to hire companies that are based in your area, or can you give even the name of the company? Because I'm thinking, I don't even know how moms are going to search for this. Is it a company you would recommend?
Sure, absolutely. So it's 3 letters, SLB, and then the word billing, SLB billing. And like I said, you don't have to be contracted with a midwife in order to get a verification of benefits. And it's usually a pretty reasonable cost just to find out what your insurance will and won't cover. And that gives moms a great start in their search for using their insurance for midwifery care if that's what they choose.
Yeah, that's really smart. Thank you so much for that resource. All right, thank you so much, Cheryl. This has been great. If you want to check out Cheryl's business and learn a little bit more about what she does, her website is yourthrivingpregnancy.com. And then once you check out Cheryl's stuff, head on over to newmommymedia.com. That's our website. You can check out our podcast episodes, other videos that we've done, just like this one, our blog posts, tons of great information. It's where real moms talk about real life.